Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat pagi, salam sejahtera pada semua yang ada di auditorium dan juga secara maya di platform Zoom. InsyaAllah pada hari ini saya Dr. Nabilah binti Abdul Rahman dari Jabatan Rehab akan berkongsi tentang CME ataupun satu presentation mengenai post-COVID rehabilitation. Okay. So sekarang kita pun dekat hopefully di hujung-hujung COVID insyaAllah. Okay, so this adalah outline pada presentation saya. Pertamanya ada introduction, post-COVID symptom and classification, and also rehabilitation recommendation for the respiratory, cardiac, fatigue issues, neurological, exercise recommendation, psychological, secular, and the conclusion. So dalam presentation saya ni, saya akan banyak sentuh regarding post-discharge rehabilitation. Tak banyak sangat dah yang akan saya sentuh regarding inpatient rehabilitation for COVID, but mostly for post-discharge, and it's also not so detailed, but it's basically guideline, outline, and also overview. Okay, so hopefully siapa yang ada ahli keluarga, kawan-kawan yang kena COVID, so bolehlah share presentation, share maklumat daripada presentation ni kepada mereka lah. Okay, so as we know, we have been with COVID since 1 year and a half, and it has been a new normal for us. Dia telah serang worldwide, and mainly we know that COVID predominantly affect the respiratory system, but there is a lot of evidence that says COVID can have multi-system and multi-disease involvement. Okay, so ini adalah current status di Malaysia, yang ni 2 hari lepas kita dah ada dekat 326,000 orang meninggal dalam 1,000 lebih, dan untuk hari itu saja dalam ICU ada 152 orang. Dalam worldwide dah 120 juta lebih lah. Okay, mati pun dah 2 juta lebih lah. So COVID ni memang pandemik, semua orang tahu, dan menyebabkan very active burden lah untuk health system worldwide. So apa yang saya nak share hari ini adalah mengenai post COVID. Ada orang namakan, panggil juga post COVID ni long COVID, long haulers, ataupun post COVID syndrome, macam-macam nama. Ada a few nama lagi lah, tapi yang ni lah yang paling popular kalau kita cari dalam literature review. So what is the definition of these terms from the NICE guideline? It's defined as sign and symptom that develop during or following a disease consistent with COVID, which continue for more than 4 weeks, but they are not explained by alternative diagnosis. Okay. So NICE guideline juga dia propose regarding the classification. They classify acute COVID symptom up to 4 weeks, ongoing COVID symptom up to 4 to 12 weeks, post COVID symptom develop during or after an infection and continue for more than 12 weeks. So this term long COVID dia comprise the ongoing symptom of COVID, this ongoing symptom of COVID 4 to 12 weeks, and also post COVID syndrome, maksudnya lepas pada 12 weeks. So what are the symptoms? Okay, daripada gambar ni kita tengok daripada head to toe, symptom tu will affect the patient. So it can affect the neurocognitive function of patient. Patient will have brain fog, dizziness, loss of attention, confusion, autonomic dysfunction such as tachycardia, palpitation, chest pain, GI symptom, abdominal pain, vomiting, respiratory symptom yang paling utama, fatigue, dyspnea, rasa shortness of breath, cough, sore throat, musculoskeletal pain such as myalgia, arthralgia, and also psychological. Ada manifestation berkaitan dengan smelling lah, agnosia, anosmia, parosmia, and also some skin rashes lah. So ada most of the published study on post-COVID, about 50 to 70 post-hospitalized patient will exhibit this symptom up to 3 months. So this post-COVID symptom can affect the whole body system lah, from head to toe. So ini adalah satu cross-sectional study yang diadakan di Netherlands. Dia punya participant around 2,000 plus. So dia tengok symptom during infection yang kala kelabu ni, dan juga symptom follow up at almost 79 days. So dia tengok symptom yang paling banyak sekali waktu during infection, 95% of the patient will have fatigue, tak larat, seletih, restlessness, and also after during follow up around 80 days. Ini adalah regarding the study that I mentioned just now. It's about patient During infection, most of patient will, about 95% will present with fatigue, and even after almost 80 days, they still reported having fatigue. Next most common symptom is during infection, there is 90% will present of shortness of breath or dyspnea, but after that, during follow-up, 71% still present with reported symptom of dyspnea. Ada symptom yang lain macam chest tightness, headache, muscle pain, pain at the shoulder blades, heart palpitation, okay, dan macam-macam lagi lah. So kita dapat tengok di sini bahawa even during follow-up, the symptom is persist, even up to 79 days to 80 days. Okay. So this is one study in Pakistan, but the number is about 158 only regarding the association factors. Okay, from this study they find out that majority almost the same, also have fatigue, the most prevalent post-discharge manifestation, and this post-COVID symptom has a significant correlation with gender, age, and also time of recovery, and the COVID severity is significantly related with the 5 dimension of the quality of life questionnaires. And the stigma for COVID-19 infection more pronounced in upper class population. They also find a significant association of disease severity with pre-existing comorbid, yang ni macam correlate lah kan, and also significant relation of age, maksudnya the increasing age, they will manifest more dyspnea, persistent cough, joint pain, and also chest pain. Interestingly, they found out that females suffered from persistent COVID-19 associated symptoms such as fatigue, anxiety, joint pain, depression, and continuous headache in comparison to the male counterpart. Okay, so this one of the study yang kita tengok regarding the punya association factor. So now kita masuk, kita tahu what is post-COVID, what is the symptom. So now baru nak masuk ke topik ya, what is rehabilitation post-COVID, what we do with this symptom, what rehab can help to improve this symptom. So this is our rehab team in COVID ward, tapi ni waktu inpatient lah, waktu acute. Okay, so we still have to continue this thing post-discharge. So untuk MOs dan juga houseman yang baru join, what is rehab? Ramai orang tanya kan, yang ni refer rehab. So tapi tak tahu rehab tu apa. So actually rehab, WHO define rehabilitation as a set of intervention, is a set of management designed to optimize patient function and reduce patient disability in individual that has health condition, and also we help them to interact with their environment. So we optimize dia punya function, maximize their patient ability to live, work, and to learn their best potential. Maksudnya in whatever condition, we will help patient to function back in their daily activity, in their daily life, in their daily work. Okay. So as we can see that COVID is a multi-system, so we need a full multidisciplinary rehab team to manage this COVID patient. So rehab team, we have physician, we have physiotherapist, we have occupational therapist, we have speech language therapist, dietitian in this hospital lah. Psychologist kita ada juga tapi tak ramai, and other hospital team lah from the acute primary team. Based on NICE guideline, they recommend the progressive rehabilitation program are best initiated within the first 30 days, which is post-acute phase, to have a greatest impact of recovery. And this rehabilitation management that we do is patient-centered. Bukannya sembrono bagi semua orang sama aja dia punya ni, but it's patient-centered, tailored with individual patient needs, and we must include dia punya comorbidities, premorbid dia macam mana, social dia macam mana. So it's mainly individualized and patient-centered. So now we go to one by one dia punya domain, iaitu first we'll see on pulmonary rehabilitation. So sebab COVID ni first dia attack the pulmonary system, so we go first to the pulmonary rehabilitation. So what is pulmonary rehabilitation? It's defined as multidisciplinary intervention, multidisciplinary tadi tu, based on personalized individual and treatment which include we prescribe exercise training, education, behavior modification to improve patient physical and psychological condition of people with respiratory disease, any respiratory disease. So pulmonary rehab bukan untuk COVID saja. Any patient with respiratory disease can include in pulmonary rehabilitation. And this pulmonary rehabilitation we can give in hospital setting, outpatient setting, home-based setting ataupun tele-rehabilitation. Tapi ada dia punya kekangan lah untuk tak mention ni for tele-rehab. So duration of pulmonary rehabilitation usually ranging dalam 6 hingga 9 minggu post discharge, and this is the component of pulmonary rehabilitation. First we will do baseline and outcome assessment, then we plan the management, the rehabilitation program. The most important is to have a correct diagnosis and management of the comorbidities. We will prescribe exercise training and also exercise maintenance for patient, teach patient the breathing management, give patient a proper nutritional support, teach patient how to do energy conservation technique to tackle the fatigue. Patient must receive the interdisciplinary education. We as the doctors have to optimize the pharmacotherapy and also oxygen administration. And after all, when patient already learn all of this, patient himself, herself have to self-manage the pulmonary rehabilitation program and then masuk ke maintenance strategies. So the main aim of ultimate pulmonary rehabilitation is basically for patient to have increased patient functional exercise capacity, improve respiratory function, improve dia punya quality of life, reduce the sensation of dyspnea and return to vocational activity. Maksudnya dia boleh bekerja semula, bawa kereta semula, menjalani vocational activity dia sendirilah. Okay. So and this lecture sharing session I will share about the outpatient pulmonary rehabilitation, which is the recommendation by the WHO consensus. First, WHO consensus on COVID-19 rehabilitation in pulmonary rehab. First, the pulmonary rehabilitation must include thoracic mobilization exercise. Maksudnya kena move the thoracic muscle, secretion therapy, respiratory training, and also teach patient regarding the body posture and body mechanics, so that patient is easier to breathe, and also to assist patient in cough secretion management of cough expectorant. And when we prescribe the exercise, it has to be gradual and also graded resistant breathing exercise. They also suggested for electrical stimulation for the diaphragmatic trainer, but we don't have this thing here. And also exercise training, especially to improve the endurance, resistance, balance, and also coordination training. And usually before we prescribe this pulmonary exercise, it has to be exercise yang kita nak prescribe tu mestilah accepted by patient, safe for patient, goal oriented and individualized lah, with all of these component yang saya akan cerita nanti sekali lah. So recommendation for pulmonary rehabilitation program as outpatient, we should give patient education such as booklet, videos, daily rehab, and advice on the lifestyle. Should also include the aerobic and endurance exercise. Generally, it should be any type of exercise yang patient selamat untuk patient dan yang patient ada preference, suka tentang benda tu. It should start with low intensity, short duration first, and kalau patient ada fatigue, we can pace ataupun kita boleh bagi intermittent exercise to patient. We should also prescribe with muscle strengthening exercise such as resistance training, and it should be graded, maksudnya gradually increase the resistance. There are also balance training, because some of the patient will have issues in balance, and also multiple breathing exercise technique to improve breathing, patient punya breathing and also airway clearance techniques. So besides that, we also should train patient regarding the activity of daily living, macam mana diorang nak menjalani kehidupan setelah menjalani COVID. Kalau diorang tak boleh, especially yang post ICU patient, untuk pergi ke toilet balik, mandi sendiri, pakai baju sendiri, makan sendiri kan. So that is very important. So if patient unable to do that, we will give instrumental to help patient. Maksudnya adaptive aid to help patient to return to their function. So for awal jabatan, kita ada sediakan satu Facebook page untuk orang ramai lah, untuk masyarakat. Nama dia adalah Facebook page Community Rehab Kedah. So dalam ni kita dah upload satu video regarding respiratory pulmonary exercise yang kita boleh buat, dan juga kita boleh tunjuk dekat pesakit-pesakit supaya buat benda ni lah. It can be done anywhere, dekat rumah, dalam ward, semua boleh buat. So boleh like, share and comment dekat this Facebook page. So kita boleh tengok video ni, dan kalau nak buat kat sini pun boleh. Okay? Dia sambil duduk saja. Okay. Ini adalah deep breathing exercise lah. This is the recommendation thoracic expansion exercise. Thoracic mobility exercise. Spirometry ya. Sebenarnya sebab pasien COVID kalau dekat iWard tu selalunya ada lah. This is the correct technique how to use spirometry ya. Kadang-kadang pasien dia pakai mulut je kan. Dia kena sedut. Okay, ini adalah untuk secretion management, self percussion. Okay, dia guna teknik cupping ya. So kita akan cup, kita try to mobilize the secretion from different parts of lungs dulu. Selalunya kalau dekat port dia kita akan couple this with vocal drainage. Okay, ada teknik yang lain lah. So yang ni yang patient senang buat tau. Adalah Hafik teknik ni penting untuk patient, boleh ajak patient macam mana nak expel dia punya sputum patient yang kurang have a very poor pump effort so reduce lah dia punya, akan bantu dia punya muscle respiratory appendage muscle tu pump sendiri. So boleh kalau ada adik-beradik patient tak ward ke, tak COVID ward ke, so boleh tunjuk benda ni lah dekat patient, buka je Facebook page Community Rehab Kedah. So pagi-pagi boleh buat. Okay. Kita pun buat 3 kali satu hari pun boleh kan. Mudah saja. Okay. So okay, now that's regarding pulmonary rehabilitation. So now we go for cardiac rehabilitation. As we know, COVID-19 also is associated with cardiac complication, especially arrhythmia and myocardial injury, which is reported in many literature. And this is because of the diastolic dysfunction, conduction defects, systolic dysfunction, and many others lah yang menyebabkan having this cardiac complication. So this patient that have this cardiac complication should be enrolled in a cardiac rehabilitation program. And the major goal for cardiac rehabilitation program is to reduce the myocardial ischemia and risk infection and sudden death, maximize the cardiovascular capacity and fitness, to maximize dia punya exercise tolerance and activity dealing performance, establish a patient control and safe aerobic exercise program, provide guidelines for safe activity and work, and control risk factor for coronary artery disease and to improve dia punya quality of life. So kalau kita salah bagi prescription exercise prescription for cardiac patient, usually patient will have worsen dia punya myocardial ischemia and can have the 10 prong of cardiac rehabilitation. So this is what we do for patients. They come to our cardiac rehabilitation clinic. First, we have patient assessment, and then we give them the nutritional counselling, we put them to dietitian, the weight management, must ensure the blood pressure control, lipid control, diabetic control, tobacco cessation, quit smoking, psychological management, and we prescribe them exercise and also physical activities and also counselling. So in cardiac rehabilitation is actually we have 3 phases. First phase is inpatient, maksudnya dalam ward, usually lasted about 3 to 5 days. Okay, and then lepas discharge daripada ward, patient akan masuk ke outpatient, which is usually lasted around 8 weeks. And also then patient going back to the community where is the maintenance phase. So cardiac rehabilitation is a very big topic. If I want to rattle everything here, I think last year we already given 1-hour lecture regarding full cardiac rehabilitation. So patient with COVID that have cardiac issue, contohnya arrhythmia, AF, ada ischemia, ada MI during COVID, so should refer to us in our cardiac rehabilitation clinic lah. So this is our clinic. Can call, is a monthly clinic, 8:31 pagi hari Khamis, which is hari ini, and can call for appointment lah for our cardiac rehab clinic. So as we know just now, the post-COVID symptom yang paling banyak tadi adalah fatigue. So this is the one of the common presentation complaint patient infected with COVID, and even after follow up also, this is the most common symptom that persists after post-COVID. Okay, so what is fatigue? Sorry tak nampak. So fatigue ni bahasa kita tak larat lah kan, tapi dalam bahasa sains dia is a constant feeling of exhaustion that can lead to less energy to perform physical and mental work. And usually fatigue ni dia adalah individualized patient, individualized different from people to people. So in rehab, kita tak tengok orang yang cakap kata tu larat, yang tu lagi tak larat daripada orang yang cakap tak larat. So kita ada objective assessment skill lah untuk fatigue ni, so that kita boleh tengok dia punya severity and we can see the improvement after we do the intervention. So there are a lot of fatigue assessment skill yang kita boleh buat, dan yang selalu kita buat di sini adalah fatigue. Okay. So fatigue ni, the most important yang kita selalu tengok adalah effect on return to work. Tak nampak return to work, because from study they show that 1/3 of patient having not returned to employment. And also there's study in Hong Kong that over 40 respondents reported a chronic fatigue problem for more than 40 months after infection. So kalau ada supervisor kat sini yang anak buah post-COVID kata fatigue, memang semua dia fatigue, sebab benda tu memang adalah simptom yang telah terbukti ada untuk patient yang post-COVID. Jadi kena intervene lah benda tu, maksudnya kena buat management benda tu kan. So fatigue ni, how to manage that? First kita kena tengok apa yang menyebabkan fatigue tu lah. Selalu we have to rule out first depression. So kita tahu yang COVID ni also can cause depression, stress, anxiety. So we have to tackle this first. And then if she was or he was in any drugs, which can cause fatigue. Contohnya benzo, sedative, anticonvulsant, and elimination of the fatigue enhancing factor. Contohnya alkohol ke, nikotin ke, poor sleep hygiene. Okay, so for fatigue, we manage fatigue by two methods, iaitu non-pharmacological treatment ataupun pharmacological treatment. This pharmacological treatment is usually only adjunct. Maksudnya dia kena dibuat sekali, dia kena diberi sekali dengan non-pharmacological treatment. It cannot stand alone. So usually we will, for non-pharmacological treatment, we have a physical rehabilitation exercise, aerobic training, aquatic training ke, yoga, whatever, and then physical agents such as cold therapy, magnetic field therapy ataupun FES, and non-invasive brain stimulation yang ni kita tak buat lah kan. So kita boleh bagi patient juga ubat yang selalu kita bagi adalah amantadine, modafinil ataupun metapenidik lah. But usually this ubat must be coupled with the non-pharmacological treatment. Okay, so fatigue rehabilitation, the most important thing that kita selalu ajar patient adalah regarding energy conservation technique. What is energy conservation technique? Maksudnya dia kena simpan tenaga dia lah, jangan membazirkan tenaga. Macam tu lah. Okay, bukan tenaga DMB tapi tenaga diri dia sendiri. Okay, so what is energy conservation techniques? This activity that involve changing an activity or the environment to decrease the level of energy requirement to complete a task. So in energy conservation techniques, dia punya prinsipal dia ada 6P. Maksudnya pacing the activity, planning the activity, prioritize the activity, positioning of the patient atau the body, ergonomics, practice, okay, and also physical fitness. So sometimes patient yang ada masalah fatigue ni dia tak tahu nak buat benda ni. So you have to refer usually to doctors, to rehab doctors and also occupational therapy to teach patient how to organize this thing to manage the fatigue. Okay. So these are the things yang kita akan taught patient how to organize the ni. So kalau lah benda ni terjadi kepada waktu dia working, so kita akan enroll dia dalam our return to work clinic. So we identify that patient has fatigue, and then we will enroll in our return to work assessment. So daripada return to work assessment tu kita akan tanyalah dia macam mana dia punya kerja, macam mana apa dia punya nature of work, macam mana dia punya tempat kerja, macam mana dia punya masa. Kalau shift kadang-kadang dia akan kacau dia punya sleep wake kan, sleep wake cycle tu yang menyebabkan akan fatigue juga. Tapi nak buat macam mana, that is our nature. So benda tu kita kena teach patient and also communicate with patient and also arrange with patient how to manage. Usually how there are a few important things yang kita selalu suggest. Maksudnya kita delegate the task, organize the task yang patient dapat tu. Time management is very important. Simplify the task. Okay, jangan buat kerja berdiri, buat kerja duduk. Okay, take a seat. Okay, make sure climate, maksudnya jangan dalam keadaan yang panas. So sekarang ni tengah ada stroke harbor kan. Dalam keadaan cuaca panas, so lagi akan banyak orang cepat fatigue. So climate is very important. Maksudnya ada aircon, ada kipas. Okay, proper body mechanics is very important. Ergonomics, sleep hygiene. Kalau lah kata tak boleh juga, so kita akan bagi medical equipment kepada pesakit lah. Contohnya kalau yang ada neurological condition, post-COVID ke, so kita boleh bagi wheelchair, skuter ke, macam tu kan, yang tu daripada rehab lah. Ataupun kita bagi alat-alat yang membantulah, contohnya ADL, grasper, reacher yang untuk ambil benda-benda yang tinggi. And also optimize community access. So benda ni nampak macam mudah, tapi kadang-kadang kan bila pesakit datang kepada kita, dia tak tahu pun macam mana nak organize dia punya task untuk simplify dia punya task. Contohnya kalau katalah macam PPK kan, kadang satu hari 20-30 kali naik ke satu-satu tempat lah. Tapi sebenarnya benda tu boleh dikumpulkan, kalau boleh dikumpulkan kan. So this type of simplifying the task lah untuk patient yang ada fatigue. So to improve fatigue also, we prescribe therapeutic exercise and endurance training post-COVID. So untuk patient post-COVID ni kita tak boleh semata-mata cakap okay exercise lah apa-apa pun, buatlah exercise ni, no. Because exercise is a type of physical activities consisted of planned, structured and repetitive body movement. So it must be planned, it must be structured, which is done to improve and maintain one or more component of physical fitness. So prior to exercise, we should have pre-exercise evaluation, which is clinical evaluation, clinical exercise testing. Kalau datang ke rehab, for cardiac rehabilitation, we have EST testing, and also we do the exercise prescription. So exercise prescription must be individualized. It has to be tailored with patient's condition, comorbidities, age, gender, and also current health condition. So kalau kita nak prescribe exercise for patient, it must include this principle, which is fit. Which is we have to prescribe the frequency, which is how often he has to do it, intensity, how hard he has to do it, okay, berapa banyak berapa berat, berapa semua, time, how long he has to do it, type, what type of exercise, aerobic exercise, resistant exercise, flexibility exercise, so yang tu kita kena buat. Total volume, amount, how much, and also progression, how much he has to advance. So this is the evidence base how we want to prescribe a therapeutic exercise to patient, okay. So bukan sewenang-wenangnya lah. So I think for exercise ni, for able body, best prescribe exercise is the sport medicine specialist, and for disabled body, our rehab physician can prescribe the exercise for the disabled body. So I would like to touch a bit regarding COVID post ICU, post intensive care syndrome, which is the most patient that we got during our in our COVID team, and this patient yang kita akan follow up, banyakkan patient yang Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3 tu yang tak masuk ICU tu kadang tak datang jumpa kita pun, kadang dah discharge hilang macam tu saja kan. So kalau dia ada isu boleh tunjuk gambar-gambar yang tadi lah, video-video yang tadi. So for post intensive care syndrome ni, patient from post ICU usually they will have more multi-organ involvement. Okay, so they will have cognitive involvement, psychological involvement, and also physical impairment. So this will significantly decrease their quality of life. So this is our method. Nampak sana? Tak apa nampak on rehab, how we manage patient with post ICU syndrome. So this is what we call a international classification of function framework of management, where we see patient with post ICU syndrome will see the impairment and body structure and function. Most patient post ICU, they will have reduce in muscle strength, reduce in joint mobility, reduce in sensory function, and increase in pain, ada difficulty in swallowing, speech, reduce in respiratory function, cardiovascular fitness, fatigue, cognitive function juga, and also all the psychological issues. So this thing will affect dia punya activity, will limit the activity. So they're less mobile, that's why they refer rehab, because for mobilization. Okay, they're less mobile, not working, cannot do self-care, tak boleh makan sendiri walaupun tengok macam dah stable dah medically kan, tapi awak dia tak mau gerak dah. So then refer rehab lah. So they cannot ambulate, they cannot walk, they cannot go to toilet, they cannot do their own dressing. Tanya pun macam sometimes not oriented, not disorientated kan. Okay. Tak okay, tak okay. So this will affect, and then after that it will affect dia punya participation in the community. So dia tak boleh nak kerja balik. Okay, kalau that's the most important lah. Tak boleh nak bekerja semula, tak boleh nak bawa kereta semula kan. And they have also will see dia punya environmental factor and also personal factor. Kalau rumah balik pada ICU ada muscle weakness because of neuropathy, dia tengok flat tingkat 5, kita juga lain kena tak. Dia tengok kat rumah tak ada orang yang nak jaga, so kita akan deal lah tentang dia punya destination. So that's how rehab will manage patient. This ICF framework usually will do this in all of rehabilitation management. So next adalah regarding neurological sequelae post-COVID. So COVID has neurological sequelae also. Major reported neurological abnormalities mainly in nervous system. These are the things. Okay, here we see this is common. Patient with CVA post-COVID pun kita jumpa. So this also referring to rehab. Patient with GBS and also polyneuropathy, paralysis atonic pun kita memang jumpa lah. So this neurological rehabilitation must refer to rehab lah, because it's a very complex rehabilitation program, and we have our neuro rehabilitation clinic itself. So the most important adalah kita aim untuk reduce the disability, to teach patient to acquire new skill with new strategies to maximize dia punya capability of doing dia punya activity of daily living. We can alter the environment, both physical and social, and we use this ICF framework also. Okay, and it has to be interdisciplinary ataupun multidisciplinary. Okay, last but not least is the regarding psychological sequelae. I think this is best to be presented by the psychiatrist, but if patient have depression, if patient have anxiety, patient have so much stress, it will heavily impact our rehabilitation management. Kalau patient kemungkinan depression, dia takkan nak buat pun apa juga training yang kita ajak, dan dia takkan nak buat pun apa juga recommendation daripada kita. So that's why these are the things that you must see after seeing patient with COVID. Okay. So I would like to present this one case from our COVID radiation previously. This Encik SM, 60 years old Malay man with underlying hypertension, diabetic, CKD, banyak komorbid kan. So this is a tablik punya gathering awal-awal dulu. So dia masuk because of URTI. Initially dia masuk ward I 4 hari, lepas tu dia deteriorate masuk ICU. So masuk ICU 2 weeks and then intubated for 10 days and then after intubated for 10 days masuk balik ward I and then kita tengoklah daripada situ. So the problem yang dia dapat adalah COVID-19 pneumonia with cytokine storm and multi-organ involvement. CKD dah require hemodialysis dah. And then nosocomial infection, CRE pula, septic pneumonia. And then dia delirium dalam ward, so ada cognitive issue juga. But some also have agitation, throwing feces lah, remove diapers lah, okay. And then also noted generalized muscle weakness. Even they do CT brain for him lah, okay. Cuma ada chronic macrovascular ischemia changes. And then they have the nutrition issue. Okay, so when we see this patient, the first time, I think after 3 days out from ICU, patient is not orientated to time, on and off, but orientated to place and person, able to obey 3 step command, but inconsistent. Sekejap macam ni, sekejap macam ni kan, not alert. We'll do one test, what we call MTS. MTS ni macam test budak je satu je. Just okay, dia so bagi tahu hari ni hari apa, kira 1 sampai 10, Perdana Menteri apa kan. Dan patient ni sebelum ni adalah pengetua sekolah, dia hanya boleh jawab 3 soalan saja. Daripada 10 soalan. So dia ada masalah dari segi kognitif. So however good short term recall. Short term recall ni kadang-kadang kita bagi ni apa, lagi saya tanya balik macam tu je lah. So yang tu dia boleh jawab. Tapi benda-benda yang lain dia tak boleh jawab. So speech incoherent and inconsistent. Walaupun fluent tapi sekejap cakap sini, sekejap cakap sini, sekejap cakap sini kan. Okay. Mood dia nampak confused but at that time he's not agitated. Okay, and sometimes he said he has a visual hallucination at night, which is this is very common in ward I don't know why. Lah, tapi untuk dia ada visual hallucination at night lah saja kan. Okay, so feeding, dia dah pass feeding, and then when we examine physically, noted that he has dia quite good, power 4 to 5, sebab dia tak dapat sangat nak ikut kita punya command, quite good, but he has a very poor lower limb power dalam 3-2 je, maksudnya dia tak boleh nak berdiri apa semua lah. Dia dah start ada sacral sore. Sebelum ni dia pengetua sekolah, live kat Kuala Nerang, good family support, tapi family dia tak boleh jemput dia lah sebab dia kat dalam ward COVID kan, seorang-seorang je. Dia kesan dia. So tak ada orang nak bagi stimulation kat dia kan. So at that time we saw him, dia boleh pusing, back mobility dia boleh pusing. Tapi daripada lying nak duduk tak boleh maximum assist. Maksudnya dia kena betul-betul kena ada orang angkat dia lah dan dia tak boleh nak follow command. Okay. So kita buat rehab measure MBI ni, kita tengok dia punya function. MBI ni function macam untuk dia buat sendiri aktiviti dia. So kalau orang yang boleh berjalan buat semua aktiviti kita bagi 100% lah. Dia hanya 3% saja. Maksudnya dia boleh care kat dia 3%. Maksudnya dia still total care dependent in COVID ward alone. Okay, so MMSA ni adalah untuk kognitif jugalah, so dia tak boleh langsung. So there we initiate a rehabilitation program. So there are a lot of inpatient rehabilitation program that we do, which is kita cerita pasal kali ni kita cerita pasal outpatient. So sana kita buat daily orientation, ya, kita buat daily sitting training. Semua ni dibuat oleh kita punya nurses dan juga MO saja. Okay, so after 2 weeks, alhamdulillah tengok kita review balik patient, patient dah obey 3 step command. Okay, kita buat satu lagi cognitive assessment, kita panggil MOCA. MOCA ni dia macam higher level sikit lah, level macam level sekolah menengah lah. Dia boleh jawab 17/30. Tapi dia still ada reduce in cognitive function, recall and slow response. So maksudnya COVID tu memang affect dia punya cognitive function. Respiratory dia improve sebab dia boleh ikut arahan, so kita dah boleh buat incentive spirometry. Feeding pun dah boleh feed himself. Okay, so power dah improving. Okay, maksudnya power upper limb lower limb dah 5/5. So at this moment dia dah boleh independent pusing sendiri, independent duduk, dan dia boleh ambulate dah, dia dah boleh jalan dengan walking frame. So kalau kita buat dia punya rehabilitation measures dia punya kebolehan untuk dia berdikari, MDI ni 78% dia boleh dah berdikari sendiri. So untuk rehab 80-75% tu alhamdulillah insyaAllah kita dah boleh discharge dah. So patient pun kita discharge. Okay, so we'll see patient in the follow up. Okay, after 1 month, we'll see during follow up. At this moment kita tak tahu banyak sangat tentang post COVID So a lot of post-COVID symptom kita miss. Kita tak apa nak tanya. So apa yang kita buat waktu tu adalah tentang dia punya functional status and rehabilitation measures lah. So balik kat rumah 1 month, dia punya functional status improve, 80% dia boleh berdikari sendiri. Tapi bagi kita agak sikit sebenarnya. Mungkin balik rumah bini dia buat semua kan, sebab very supportive, so dia tak berapa nak ni sangat. Dia punya cognitive function improving a bit, and then kita dah buat aerobik dan juga training endurance. Dia hanya boleh jalan 140 meter dalam masa 6 minit. Dan at this moment dia dah start cakap kata dia ada isu regarding dia punya balance. Okay, so kita buat this what we call a work balance skill, dan dia memang kita noted dia ada isu regarding dia punya balance. Dia still berjalan dengan walking frame. So that's why after that kita buat intensif lagi rehabilitation kita dekat Hospital Coroner, and then dia follow up. Kita after 3 months post discharge, maksudnya 2 months after that, dia dah independent in all aspect of the activity living. Walau macam mana pun dia still ada lacking dalam dia punya cognitive function, tak dapat makan penuh lagi pun. Dia punya respiratory function dia improve, dia punya aerobic endurance dia, 6 minute water dia improve, dan juga balance dia improve lah walaupun ada sikit lagi. So based on this patient yang masuk ICU ada post COVID, it's really affect the whole system of the body. Okay. So this is the almost the last slide. So this is as a summary. Actually WHO telah mengeluarkan this template ataupun this pamphlet lah basically for patient support for rehabilitation self management after COVID-19 related illness. So yang ni boleh Google, is open access, so boleh masuk, and then dia akan ajak patient macam mana how to manage breathlessness, exercise after leaving hospital, manage the voice, drinking, eating, swallowing, attention, memory, and then activity of daily living, stress apa semua. So kita boleh tengok ini, can open. Okay, so okay, apa? So boleh masuk ke sini. Dalam pamphlet ni walaupun dalam bahasa Inggeris, tapi dia ada banyak gambar. Dia ada banyak gambar yang mudah untuk patient buat exercise. Yang tadi tu more to exercise yang video tu more exercise of the pulmonary. Tapi dalam pamphlet ni dia banyak exercise regarding physical lah. Macam mana nak buat stretching, strengthening exercise. Okay. So I think that's all for me. Regarding post-COVID rehabilitation, hopefully you can disseminate the knowledge to the others. Thank you.